Live from our studio audience, it's 5 More Minutes, Mom, with your hosts, Brielle and Guerlain, on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to 5 More Minutes, Mom. I'm Brielle.
And I'm Guerlain.
At the bottom of the screen will be all of our social media handles, both for 5 More Minutes, Mom and for the Empty the Bench Podcast Network, as well as Guerlain and myself, our personal Instagram, Twitters, etc. So please give us a like, give us a follow, come check us out.
All that fancy jazz, all that
Yeah.
social media plug talk.
Yeah, well, we got to, it's important.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into the episode. Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me.
Hey, throwback.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, so this episode is actually an episode about sexuality. Whoo! We're going to be talking about kind of the ways in which the shows and the movies that we watched as kids kind of shapes what we find attractive, what we find interesting. Because I think there's something definitely to be said about that. I mean, most people, their first crush is like a character from a TV show that they watched as a kid. Even if at that point in your life you're a little too young to understand what having a crush means, you'll like pick out a person and be like, oh, that person's cute. They're my crush.
Right. So, what would you say, like for you, what was the thing, show, movie, whatever, that started to like pique your interest in people that you find or attractive, what you find attractive?
It's very funny actually
Mm.
because I I don't remember, like, if you asked me this a couple of weeks ago, I wouldn't remember. But I've been kind of going through, like, because my sister has Paramount Plus, so I've been kind of going through old TV shows just to kind of see, like, oh, nostalgia.
Right.
And I was watching one, and it like hit me in the face that I had a crush on one of the characters, like a little baby crush. And it was the show Allegra's Window, which was a show with puppets. Again, the 90s were really big for puppets, and I was really big into puppets. And
Hmm.
it was Allegra's Window, and there was a character on that show. His name was Reed, and he owned like a music shop, and he was very attractive. Even now, like watching it as an adult, I'm like, he's cute. He's a very cute man.
Okay.
And I think that I think he was like my first like little kid crush.
Oh.
Um, but in all honesty, other than that, that was kind of it. Like I know people, and I'm not going to name names because I don't want to embarrass anyone, even though it's not embarrassing. Who like their first crush was like Kovu from Lion King 2 or Balto, like because
Mm.
they draw those animals with like very expressive eyes and like they're voiced by very attractive like actors.
Right.
So yeah, like that was never like a thing that I dealt with. Like I was never attracted to like cartoon characters. Like I was always very aware that like again, not that there's anything wrong with it, but like that those are cartoons and I'm a person.
Right.
However, it's funny because like yes, Reed was like my first like maybe little kid crush, but in all honesty, I had Oh wait.
Something's coming back.
Something just wait, okay.
Mm.
This is very funny. So, okay. I had a crush. I say this with air quotes. I had a crush on Daniel Radcliffe as Harry Potter.
Okay. All right.
Those movies came out, I was like maybe like 10. I'll admit I was a bit of a late bloomer when it came to like crushes and things like that. Like I wasn't super into it.
Mhm.
Um, I had a crush on Daniel Radcliffe, right? And then I very distinctly remember, and this is going forward in time a little bit, but I very distinctly remember the third Harry Potter movie coming out and seeing Rupert Grint, who played Ron, and I was like, "Oh, move over, Dan Radcliffe. Hello, Rupert Grint." And I was obsessed with Rupert Grint. And
Hmm.
then in when the last Harry Potter movies came out and Bill and Fleur were like in those movies, and Donald Gleason, who is the love of my life. Oh, I have such a crush on him. He was in those movies. I was like, move over, Ron Weasley. I want Bill Weasley. But yeah, no, I forgot. Oh, I forgot about Dan Radcliffe. Yeah, I had a pretty big crush on Dan Radcliffe. He was really cute. I mean, he still is cute. Like, I think he's still very cute. But yeah, I
Mm.
had a crush on Dan Radcliffe too.
And with Dan, you said that was when you was 10.
Yeah, it must have been when I was like 9 or 10,
And
because
then
when those movies came out.
so as the movies so with the last one you said, so you was a teenager by then.
When the last Harry Potter movie came out, that was, I believe, when I was in high school, like my last few years of high school. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Or maybe it was like my first year of college or something. I don't know. Time is wibbly
What
wobbly,
is
timey
time?
wimey, whatever.
Yeah.
No, okay. So yeah, but also what I interrupted myself about was I also had crushes on characters from books.
Mm. Mm.
Like, I found myself having crushes on characters from books a lot more easily. Um, like, so I'm bisexual,
Mm.
and I came to that realization very late in life, which is fine. Everybody's journey is different. However, I maybe should have known that earlier, considering how obsessed I was with Leah Clearwater from Twilight. I was obsessed with her character.
Mm.
And this character, Honey, from these very old books called the Trixie Belden Mysteries, which were very similar to Nancy Drew. They came out around the same time. They were like books from like the 60s that my mom like let me read because she had them. And I
Mm.
was obsessed with those characters. And I was obsessed with Trixie Belden. And it really should have clued me.
Like, hello, Brielle.
Yeah. What about you though? What was like your first like crush that wasn't like a person in your life?
I can't say for sure. Um, but and the earliest thing that I can think of was in a cartoon called Batman Beyond.
Okay.
It was basically just a continuation of the Batman story, but further in the future. Bruce Wayne is an old man, and now he took under his wing the new Batman, Terry McGinnis.
Okay.
Side note, rest in peace to Kevin Conroy, who was the longtime voice actor for Batman.
Yes.
He is Batman for a lot of us, for a generation,
Mhm.
and it is very, very sad that he is no longer with us. Rest in peace to him.
Yeah.
So there was an episode. There was an episode where Terry basically had his Catwoman, which was funny because at the end of the episode, Catwoman is referenced because Terry goes the whole situation and he looks at Bruce. He goes, "Have you ever had any situation like this where you kind of fell in love with a bad guy?" And he smiles. He looks at him. "Let me tell you about a woman called Selena Kyle. you're gonna you're gonna love this." So yeah, Terry, he's kind of in a relationship. It's kind of off and on. It's portrayed off and on, and he meets her name or her villain persona is called Ten. She's part of the Royal Flush gang.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, I think it was 10. Um, her real name, I believe, was Melanie. So, they kind of have a thing, and it took me a while. At first, I thought, oh, I'm attracted to the way she's drawn and whatnot, but that's not the case. What 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 that awakened to me, if um, that's what we want to call it, like sexual awakening, was I really love the I'm a sucker. And my girlfriend told me this. Shannon told me this when we was trying to write something, and I told her what I was into. And she was like, "Oh my god, I never took you for that type of person." So what she calls that I'm a sucker for the whole trope of um from from something to lovers,
Friends to lovers?
not friends.
Enemies to friends to
From
lovers.
yes, from enemies to friends. So, like, I'm a sucker for that shit,
Okay.
and it's just something about, and so it showed me that, like, I really like that shit, and I also it's just the way the chemistry between them, and
Right.
I was
You like
like,
something a
ooh,
little more antagonistic, a little more back and forth.
more their relationship wasn't really like that. It was just the like, oh, like should we, shouldn't we? Like I
Okay.
want to, but I got a
Okay.
girl, or like, oh, you're a bad guy. Like he knows that she's 10. He finds out by the end of the episode. She doesn't know that he's Batman.
Oh,
But it's they have this whole thing, and it's just something about the intimacy of it. And I was like, oh, like what I wouldn't give to like have some type of intimacy type of thing like that. So it wasn't necessarily the character herself, it was just that vibe. And I was like,
right.
something's just so sexy about it, about just, and not necessarily cheating, but just like and I'm straight as they come. Something about a woman just not necessarily throwing herself at you, but it's just she knows what she wants and takes command. No, I don't want to be dominated, but it's just something about that. And
I knew.
as a kid when I watched it, I was like, I don't know, this is doing something. This is doing
Yeah, I
something for
mean,
me,
if that's what
you
you
know?
liked and that kind of did something for you, I think there's something valid about that. I mean, like, but see, that's the thing. Like the
Mhm.
difference between like your first crush and like your sexual kind of awakening. And I think those can be the same, but those also can be different,
Hmm.
you know? Cause like I said I had a crush on Reed from Allegra's Window, and I had like a crush on Trixie Belden and Leah Clearwater. But at that point like I didn't necessarily want to do anything with them because I was pretty young. Well, Twilight was in middle school and high school. I was a late bloomer.
Mm.
But and the reason that I'm dressed like this today, and as I'm sure you know,
I know.
um, my sexual awakening was different
Mm.
than my first like crush. My sexual awakening was because of Labyrinth. Because at 12 years old, I sat down and watched Labyrinth, and David Bowie comes onto the scene, and I just went, "Yep, there we go. Okay, then we're good. All right, let's okay." And that has been true for my whole life.
Mm.
Um, yeah. So, and but looking back at it, it follows a trajectory
Mm.
because, and I'm not trying to make any assumptions. I'm not trying to say anything about anyone. Reed, that character, was not a macho man. He was tall, kind of skinny, dressed typical for a 90s dude, but he played music. And because it was a kid's show, he was very gentle and like kind and everything. Um, not that David Bowie's character in Labyrinth was kind. He's not. He's
No.
bad. But like
Yeah.
that kind of image, right?
Mhm.
And then sliding down to David Bowie, and it's like, oh, and
Falling
then
into the whole like in the bad boy.
no, not
No? Okay.
liking the bad boy. Because wait, there's more to this.
Okay.
So when I was maybe 11 or 12, around the same time, my parents let me watch Rocky Horror Picture Show,
Mm.
which looking back, I don't know if they should have done that. But in all honesty, Rocky Horror Picture Show is not as bad as some people think. Hold on one second. What is it, baby? It's my cat. She's meowing. What is it, baby? I'm right here. You want to come be on the podcast?
Special guest.
Yeah, right. We'll see if she comes in. She just meows because she's like, pay attention to me.
Mhm.
Anyway. um right, so they show me Rocky Horror Picture Show, which in all honesty I really don't think is as bad as people think. Like it really isn't as risque as modern stuff is. Like yeah, there's a little bit of nudity and there's like innuendo and stuff, but
Mhm.
honestly it's not as like sex in your face as people think. But anyway, I watched Rocky Horror Picture Show, and Tim Curry comes out in the corset with the tights and the heels, and he sings "Sweet Transvestite," and something got in scrambled in my brain, and it
Mm.
rewired a bunch of shit in my brain because the type of man that I'm attracted to, and I've talked to you about this on our other podcast, the old one, the type of man that I'm attracted to is usually tall, pale. I prefer like lighter hair, lighter eyes, but um, and if they have like a heh if they have like a feminine
Mhm.
edge to them, like a feminine quality, if there's something a little like fruity about them, I'm all about that shit. I am
Mhm.
all about that shit. Like, believe me, a muscly man is very attractive, but I'm usually not into that. And it's like I can see the correlation from my childhood to now of like why I'm in love with like Donald Gleason. Like he's a tall, skinny redhead, you know,
Right.
you know. So yeah, I just that's really interesting that I can kind of make that kind of correlation now.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like everything truly starts when you're younger,
Yeah.
you know?
Even though, like, when I was young, it was fairly innocent, like, I wasn't,
Right.
but and, like, I don't want this to come off as, like, Rocky Horror made me gay, like, that's not what happened at all. But
What
I
I
think
tell you about those televisions turn out children gay. This
yeah.
this this gay agenda. Bullshit. Get out of here.
But I think but honestly, I would say that watching Rocky Horror when I did was actually a very good thing
Mm,
because it opened me up to the idea of different sexualities and different ways of being, which I think is always important. And I
mm,
think it's important that children know that because it's because of Rocky Horror that I felt comfortable like joining my school's GSA, even though at the time I was like ally,
mhm,
which the pipeline from ally to gay is very funny. Um, but yeah, but like I think that was a good thing that my
mm,
parents, let me watch Rocky Horror because it exposed me to the idea of gay people and of transgender people and of different types of sexuality and different type of relationships and aliens. But which I think is good, and that's why I think it's wonderful that so many children's shows now have queer characters because I think it is really important. And I think, and granted, my parents are very liberal and they're very open and understanding and I never was necessarily afraid. Well, I think I naturally had a little bit of fear when I came out just in my heart anyway, but like they were not the kind to like disown me. So but I think that it was like good that I was exposed to that, and I think more kids should be let your kids watch Rocky Horror.
That's the moral of the story.
That's the moral of the story. um
I mean,
yeah.
it's just yeah. I'm thinking like how like growing up, how we're all sharing these experiences. I'm thinking how everyone is saying, well, not everyone, but a lot of people are going how there was a lot of stuff, and it's two shows. One, Kim Possible,
Mhm.
and two, Totally Spies. The
Yes.
a lot of people will point to those shows saying, "Oh, like yeah, this is why I like tough women with attitudes and stuff like that." Because apparently Shigo had everyone in a chokehold,
Yeah,
and then
apparently.
you,
Not me, which is weird because she kind of would be someone that I was attracted to, but I don't know, I guess yeah.
I mean, and then with Totally Spies was just was like a lot of people who are furries found out that they were into that because of Totally Spies.
I've
Totally
heard
Spies,
that, I've heard that.
dude.
Yeah, apparently there's a
It's,
lot of episodes of Totally Spies where they either get, like, tied up
mm-hmm,
or there's, like, furry stuff or,
mm-hmm.
like, there's a lot of stuff where they get really fat and then skinny and then like,
It's interesting. Like what I watched Totally Spies as a kid.
me too, I love Totally Spies. I thought it was so fun. It was like a spy
It,
show with, like,
yeah,
cool girls, you
it was
know?
great, but none of that ever really like it wasn't awakening for me. Like
No,
I've
not for me either. I mean, if it was for somebody, that's fine as long as, you're doing stuff safe and consensual, go
yeah,
crazy. But like, yeah, that's weird, And
it's
I
just
think
funny to think
that's
about.
proof. I think
Mhm.
that's proof that like it's not necessarily like the TV turning you a certain way. It's like it's there inside of you. It just has to be awoken. And it
Right.
wasn't for me, and it wasn't for you, but for somebody, you
You
know.
kn you know what it is for me when it comes to, because 'cause I'm a big cartoon head, so it's like
Yeah.
there's nothing really live action that I could point to. Like, the one thing I guess I could say is what every so this is what, 2007, what every teenage semi coming of age boy could say at 2007 was fucking Megan Fox because of Transformers. Because of
Yeah.
that one fucking scene where she's leaning over the engine and they
Yeah.
focus heavily on her midriff.
Yeah.
But
Which is like a weird thing to focus on. Like that's never like
it
I
was
can
the
understand
time.
like focusing on her like boobs or her butt, but like her stomach, okay. I guess stomachs are sexy, which they should okay. Like it's just a weird.
I mean, to each their own, right?
Yeah.
Um, but that was the time,
Okay.
and I followed along. I was like, oh yeah, Megan Fox is so hot. But for me, what it really was, it was like his eyes. Sometimes when in animation they would draw eyes a certain way, and
Yes.
I'm just like, ooh, don't do that, don't do that.
Yeah,
Like
that's
in
why
Avatar, like they drew Katara's eyes certain ways sometimes. Like that episode where they were dancing, her and Aang,
yes.
when they were in the Fire Nation and they were undercover and they
Yes.
help
And
all the
they're doing
children.
footloose.
It was when the part where Aang is just like, "Hey, don't worry about them. Focus on me." And then Katara blushes, and then like she's like, "All right," and she gives him those eyes. I was like, "Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't draw those eyes like that.
But that's
It's doing something for me."
yeah, but that's why I think like plenty of people had crushes on like Simba or something because the
Yeah.
animators drew their eyes so human, you know? Like so like I can't even so like I can't make fun of anybody for that. Not that I would, but like I totally get it.
Mm.
Like there are definitely moments in movies where I was like, okay.
But it's just the whole because we're talking with the whole sexuality thing, the whole like focus on uh like body stuff, like body image, or the way like they would draw the guy like super muscular, like trying to think, because like the way they would draw certain um female characters, you know, either it's like very curvy
Mhm.
or like you think, and this is the extreme, but Jessica Rabbit, right?
Right.
Not necessarily meant for kids, but it's cartoon.
Yeah.
Or that one episode Kim Possible where she was wearing a black dress because she was under like a love she was under like an emotion control machine, and
Oh.
Ron accidentally put it on love, so she was like in love with Ron.
Mm.
So they were going on a date, and she dressed in like this all black dress, and obviously just like woo woo, oh go
Yeah.
ahead Ron, blah, blah, blah. Like they made her curvy with that. That stuff never really did anything, like, for me personally. I don't know, like, with you, like, when you saw I know, like, it's not really animation for you, but just in
Um
general.
Not really. Again,
Mhm,
because especially when it came to my attraction to women, it, it didn't that stuff again because I was kind of so late with realizing that I was attracted to women. That stuff never really like interested me.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, cuz like yeah, cuz like it's so funny because when it comes to like men and women, I'm attracted to men that are intimidated by me and women that could step on me. Like that's what I'm into.
That's what you said on the
That's what I
last
said on the other
podcast.
podcast. Still
Um,
true. Still true.
I forgot her name, the one with the mole.
June.
June.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Well,
want June to step.
because so again, because we were having this episode, I was thinking about it and I was thinking about rude. Um
Yeah.
I was thinking about like my first crushes from movies and everything. And I had and recently I've been reading Dracula because I was doing this thing called Dracula Daily where they'd send you because Dracula is an epistolary novel, which means it's letters and diary entries. So they'd send you the chapters that coincided with the date. So it would be like every other day, I get a letter from my good friend Jonathan
Mm.
um, about this crazy time he had in Transylvania. Um, but I was thinking about Dracula and I realized this like memory came in. My first like on-screen female crush was the brides in Van Helsing. You know that movie that nobody saw?
Mm-mm. Not
So
familiar.
Van Helsing was a movie that came out in like the mid 2000s with Hugh Jackman, and basically it's like he plays Van Helsing and he goes to Transylvania to kill Dracula. it's an okay movie. I personally think it's not that bad, but it's an okay movie. But they actually give the brides of Dracula a little bit more screen time, and they give them more to do. And they're all played by very attractive women in like pretty skimpy clothing. And I remember like watching it, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "Oh, this is it." And then later, watching Kate Blanchett as Galadriel in Lord of the Rings, I was like, "Okay, okay, I will love you in despair. Okay."
That was it for you?
Yeah.
I got you.
What's funny though is that like neither of those are kids movies.
Right. Yeah.
Like I guess you could argue maybe that Labyrinth is a kids movie because it's meant for like children and families, but Labyrinth, Rocky Horror, Van Helsing, Lord of the Rings, those are not like kids movies. It's so interesting to me.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff will come from things we're not technically supposed to watch.
Yeah,
Like, you
because
know,
there's something like ooh naughty, about watching a movie that you're not really supposed to.
like I remember I was listening to Usher's Confessions, the album,
Mm.
and this is one song on the album called That's What It's Made For, and boy is it dirty. And I remember and there's this specific part where the music turns down and him and the woman are having a dialogue, and he's just like, should I even be listening to this? Like, oh my god. But it's always that type of stuff that, like, that gets us, that um not gets us, is the stuff that, like, yeah, you're not supposed to be listening to that we get these
Mhm.
ideas from, and it's
Yeah,
very rarely from the actual media was supposed to consume,
yeah,
which is funny, but that's how it is.
yeah. But it's so interesting to kind of look back on. And you know what? Breaking away a little bit from sexuality. I mean, it's part of the conversation, but
Mm,
I think I think the children shows that we watch, I think also kind of taught us how to be in relationships.
mm,
And in a way I think we're lucky because a lot of the shows that we watched as kids, if their parents were on screen, aside from like one or two, their parents were usually married, they were usually happy together. They usually were beacons of advice and love. And I think that's really good. And I can't necessarily complain in that regard.
boy, do I have not necessarily a story, but a thing to say about
Okay.
that. Man, so so I was in kindergarten. I had this monster crush on this girl, right? I remember her name and everything. I had this monster crush on her, right? And around the time, that's when I started getting into Toonami.
Hmm.
Toonami aired this anime called G Gundam.
Okay.
It's a fighting robot type
Yeah,
of
I know
show.
what a Gundam is.
But G Gundam is pretty. It's an oddball out of the whole Gundam series.
Okay.
It's like it's completely out there. A lot of people kind of disregard it. Like true Gundam fans disregard G Gundam, but it got me into it.
Okay.
And so the main character, Domon Kashu, his love interest, her name is Rain. And at the end of the series, there was a scene where he just professed his love to her. And I remember watching that as a kid, and I was like, oh, crush's name. I want to profess my love to you the same way Domo professed his love to Rain. And I remember like having all these fantasies of like I'm controlling a Gundam and I gotta save her and all this shit. That's true. Like
I believe you.
it really did introduce us to the concept of a relationship and everything. And honestly, that's probably for me analyzing myself. That's probably the reason why whenever I am in a relationship, like I go hard. I go hard because Domo went hard, bro. Domo,
Oh,
you don't play with Domo in the rain, bro. So I was in that. Every relationship is like we're in this to the end. Obviously, there was breakups and shit because real life. But man, if I told you I wasn't sold on that shit, I was sold. It was-
that's
yeah.
cute. No, I think that the shows that we watch not only introduce us to like what we find attractive, but also like how relationships work and how love
Yeah.
works. And, I think there's some good and bad to that. Like, I think that some shows maybe don't give a very healthy kind of explanation of love, but I
Yeah.
think that a lot of children's shows do, because that's part of it. Like, they have to, because, like, you're not gonna have a show. I mean, you know, yeah, there could be,
Pay attention to me.
she's so fun. I'm so sorry.
That's fine.
My God. Yeah, but I just think that in a way we're really lucky that, like, we had so many shows with wonderful parents and very cohesive family units, and also some pretty diverse family units,
Yeah.
which I think is good, because, I think it helps kind of, you know, introduce us to the idea of a relationship as something really healthy and wonderful, and the different kinds of relationships that you can have,
Yeah.
you know?
And now here we are.
Yeah.
know?
Here I am, 30 and still single.
Stop.
Hi, baby, with no one but my cat. You want to come
Nah,
up here and say hi? You want to come up here and say hi in the podcast? I don't think
is
she's
she
gonna.
gonna make a cameo? Oh, I was like, she's
Come
gonna
on up
make a
here.
cameo.
Oh, is she gonna come? Come on up here.
Oh,
Oh, here she comes. Come
it's a
here.
debut.
Here she comes. Look, it's my cat. Say
You
hi,
noisy
baby.
cat.
Say hi. Isn't she gorgeous?
Yeah,
Say
she's pretty.
hi. Mwah. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll let you go.
Such a complainer.
All right, I think we're done now.
And on that note,
Yeah. On that note, I think we'll say goodbye.
Mm.
We've learned way too much about each other and each other's sexualities and what's very interesting to us and what we find attractive. Um, so at the bottom of the screen, you will find the social media handles for 5 More Minutes Mom, as well as the Empty the Bench podcast network, as well as myself and Guerlain. You can catch our episodes every Saturday at 11 a.m. on youtube.com/ETV network.
Yes, and leave some comments, bro. Like, tell us, like, what was your sexual awakening? Let's
Yeah.
overshare. Let's overshare on the internet. Come on, let's do it.
Yeah,
Like,
who was your
tell me
first
everything.
crush? Who
Tell
was your
us.
first? Did you also become obsessed with a character, not realizing that that meant you were probably some kind of queer? Because I
Ooh,
did, and I think we should talk about that.
let's talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Anyone
right,
else do that?
signing off. Peace.
Bye, guys.